Здравствуйте, дорогие зрители! Today we are going to talk about my Russian C1 exam. I have a good and bad news, and actually I have only one news, but it depends on how you perceive that. For me, it's good news because I have 5 weeks until my Russian exam, so I have a lot of time to study. But for everyone else, I think that's bad news because literally this Russian C1 exam is the only thing I'm talking about because I studied Russian the whole time I'm awake and I haven't had a burnout yet. I don't know when I will have that. But currently, I feel so happy and I also feel useful because I'm learning something that I actually enjoy learning. Everyone has been asking me, how do you even prepare for an exam like this? Because as you know, this year my goal is to take 5 language exams at C level. I've taken 3 advanced exams so far. 2 years ago, I took the French C1. 2 months ago, I took the Spanish C1. And a month ago, I took the French C2. By the way, I got 92 out of French C2. And I'm taking a Russian C1 exam because I know that I can't take a Russian C2 exam. So in January, when I took this decision to take 5 language exams, I just made a research. This was the only possible scenario for me in order not to have like 2 exams in a month. So I knew it since January that I had to take the Russian exam in August. A lot of you are also asking where you can take this exam, but you should probably make a research for your own country because in Turkey, you can take it in Ankara, but I don't know where to take it in Europe, honestly. There are probably some universities who just organize the exam, but you should make a specific research for your country. And the problem with this exam, as you know, is there aren't a lot of resources. This is probably the most professional one out there, and I have actually finished most of it. And you know what? I would never say that my Russian is C1, but I'm doing pretty good in this. I don't know how, but there are also a lot of weird things with this exam. For example, the listening questions, you only get to listen to them for once. Why? And you should also know a lot of specific things about Russian society, Russian history, Russian literature, because they literally ask for it. For example, one of the reading questions here, this is literally from Pushkin, like the same text. Or the speaking and writing questions, they have really specific topics that you should be informed about. The weirdest part is writing, and even my Russian friends and followers are pretty surprised about that because, as I said before, in a writing exam you're supposed to write 3 texts in 75 minutes. That's just super weird, and I don't think that proves my Russian level or ability to think or produce something in Russian. And I've also followed the experiences of some other people online who took this exam, and literally everyone failed the writing. But you can take it again. We will see if I'm gonna fail that. But I'm also practicing for it. For example, those are how your texts are supposed to look like. You should write an essay. You should write a сообщение делового характера. And you should also write an informal letter to a friend. So as you can understand, I have 5 weeks until the exam. I think I'm doing pretty well with the preparations. And if I just continue with this routine, I think I can pass it. Hopefully. Another thing is, I'm not preparing completely alone for this exam. Obviously, I have a lot of Russian friends who help me with that. I can literally ask them something and I would get a reply in the next minute because they're always helping me with every type of question that I have. But the thing is, I'm also taking Russian classes twice a week. You might have heard from my other videos that I've taken Russian and Spanish classes on LifeXP, and right now I have a native Russian teacher. But today I rather want to talk about a new feature that LifeXP introduced exclusively for English learners as for now. If you don't know, LifeXP is an online language school where you can take individual classes from native teachers in a lot of languages. But if you're learning English, recently they have introduced AI-powered personalized path. So we all know that traditional language courses are not always adapted to our specific interests or language level. But here on LifeXP you can just go to the website, take an English language level test and find the perfect English teacher for you. The artificial intelligence system perfectly complemented traditional language learning with a teacher according to your language level and your interests and creates a personalized language learning path. This system also helps you to identify what exactly you should improve in English and provides interactive exercises. So your learning program is always going to be as relevant as possible. When it comes to Russian, I'm pretty satisfied with my experience with LifeXP, and if you're learning English, that's even better because you can actually have a personalized learning experience. Using my code, İclal, you can have a 30-minute trial lesson for 99 cents. And if you use this other code that you see on the screen, İclal30, you can get 30% of discount for any kind of subscription that you like to buy on a platform. Check necessary links in the description and book your trial lesson now. So combining my Russian classes and the conversations that we have with my friends, I'm improving both my grammar and vocabulary about many specific topics. So at C1 exams, you should be able to write and talk about anything using your best vocabulary and grammatical accuracy. Now that I'm studying for Russian, I'm realizing that doing this in Russian is even harder. Because when I was taking the Spanish exam, I could actually create new Spanish words in my head using French or English. That's impossible to do in Russian. For example, I just learned what's artificial intelligence is in Russian or what's the renewable energy is in Russian. And if you never read about that, if you never happen to watch a YouTube video about that, there is no way that you're ever finding this out. So now it kind of looks like every 3 or 4 days I'm studying a new topic. For example, I have studied about artificial intelligence, I've studied about homeschooling. By the way, homeschooling was my topic at French C1 exam. So imagine during the exam you get something about education, not exactly about homeschooling. But homeschooling is always something you can mention if you are talking about something related. So I think knowing related vocabulary or expressions in that kind of context is literally life-saving. For example, while studying for my Spanish exam, the first topic that I studied in a detailed way was el mundo laboral, so anything that has to do with business and everything, you know. And my speaking topic at C1 exam was reuniones de trabajo, work meetings. I literally didn't have a hard time talking about it. So right now I have studied different topics in Russian because my Russian was always super informal since I always use it to gossip with my friends. I always casually learned Russian, it was never something serious, and right now I have to learn serious topics. I read and watch everything I can find on the internet. For example, yesterday I just texted домашнее образование on YouTube and I just watch all these different videos or short documentaries talking about homeschooling, and then I use those topics to practice writing. For example, the essay I just showed was about artificial intelligence. In French and Spanish, I didn't practice a lot of writing because I hate practicing writing. For French it wasn't a problem because I got 46 out of 50. But for Spanish, I literally don't know what I did and maybe I failed the writing part. I literally have no idea and no expectations. But for Russian, I'm practicing. In Russian exam, to write an essay, I will have 30 minutes. So I wrote this in 30 minutes. It's about искусственный интеллект. And then I just rewrote everything on my laptop, on Notion. Because it's easier to edit, because I can just keep all of my writings in the same place and I can take a look at them. It's easier. Even while writing it on my computer, like right after producing my essay, I realized a lot of things that I could have expressed in a more advanced way. So I think that's just a skill that you're supposed to practice. And then I took this text on Notion and I pasted it to ChatGPT. And I told, look, this is the exam that I'm going to take. The text is supposed to be at C1 level and those are the instructions that I'm supposed to follow. What do you think about this text? Is it okay for the exam? And ChatGPT told me, it's a nice essay, but the grammar is not really C1 of you. And you should give more examples so that your text looks better. Like the structure should be improved. But overall, it gave me a 23 out of 30, which is not really bad for my first essay. And then I asked ChatGPT, how can I improve it? And it gave me this part and also this. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, I have my own essay and then I have the essay written by ChatGPT, which is quite the same, but it's just an improved version. And here I also wrote down some of the recommendations that ChatGPT made on my text. For example, it told me to make a more, I don't know how to say this in English, but плавный переход к основной проблеме. Just recommended me this phrase and then also which объективные and субъективные причины belong to this problem. And also some of my grammatical mistakes that I also noted. Like I asked ChatGPT, what kind of grammatical errors are there in this text? And then it told me like, you wouldn't say this in Russian. I would recommend you to say that or change this with this. Or this verb is used in the wrong way. And when I shared this on Instagram, a lot of you told me that that was really clever of me to think about this. And also some people told that they have been doing something similar and it works pretty well. Because even now I know that how I'm supposed to actually write a Russian essay in a more decent form. So as you can understand from here, my study sessions mostly consist of learning about different topics and then writing about them, because those are my main concerns. Like, I don't have a lot of concerns when it comes to Russian speaking, because I literally speak Russian every day with friends. But writing an essay, no, that's not really something I do. Or talking about homeschooling with friends, no, I don't have a specific vocabulary for that. So those are the main areas that I should improve in my Russian. And you can just create your study sessions in a way that's adapted for your own problems, I think. But of course, in order to provide more grammatical accuracy, what I do is, for example, when I'm writing a phrase in an essay or even while texting a friend, if I'm not sure of the grammatical structure I used, I just go and search for that topic on YouTube. But I think by practicing those topics and paying some attention to them or learning about the more theoretical side, I think it's nothing impossible to fix. And when it comes to these advanced language exams, I think another main secret is vocabulary. For example, in my native language, in Turkish, to start, I would say başlamak. And I literally don't know any other alternatives to this. Like, in English you can say to start, to begin, to initiate, to commence. I don't know if you have comments in English. But for example, when it comes to French, I know like 10 different ways to say to start. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I could pass the C2 exam with 92. So if we need to just adjust this to my Russian learning, I'm trying to learn new vocabulary, of course not as much as French, but if I hear something that's more impressive than the alternative that I've been using, I always try to replace my vocabulary. Sometimes I just get new words from songs, from my friends, because like songs have the most original and abstract vocabulary that you can easily memorize because they're literally in these songs. And you can just, if you just use them for once, people are super impressed by that, but you learn that super easily. So I basically say everything that's interesting from a podcast, from an Instagram story, from a song, from a Russian series, everything, and then I use them in my texts, in text messages that I write to my friends, or whenever I have to speak Russian or produce something in Russian, I basically always try to think of the new vocabulary I learned, and by doing that, like technomobrazm, you can actually start using them and they will always get more internalized in your brain. So today I just want to talk about how my Russian studying sessions mainly look like, because people are like, what are you when studying and how would you prepare for a C-level exam? So I want to reply to those questions in this video. I hope it was helpful. And until the exam we have a lot of time, 5 weeks, and since I'm spending all of my time with Russian, you're going to see a lot of vlogs because I'm filming some. And hopefully I'm going to pass this exam, and if you're studying Russian, even as a beginner, I wish you a lot of luck. Or if you're learning another language at C level, I think we can do it. Thank you for your attention and your time. You can follow me on Instagram from right here, and see you on another video. Пока-пока!